just try and put out of your mind that you were scammed through a spam email this morning like you were 50 years old.
So embarrassed. Welcome to episode 14 of the Take Two podcast, where we love cinema and we love cons and we love Dave Franco. I'm Kenny,
This is Sam.
and today on the pod, we are doing a deep dive on episode 10 of Apple TV's The Studio, as well as our season 1 thoughts and feelings, and a tiered list of our favorite season 1 characters.
And
Sam,
least
you ready to
favorite
jump
characters.
right on in?
Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited. I'm super excited to review this show and the finale and talk about the characters. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Yeah, give me your episode 10 thoughts.
Can I give you my overall review of the show real quick?
Yeah, we can start there.
Okay. And then we'll dive into the finale. Because I feel like I have this weight on my shoulders that I need to get off. And that is that I think season 1 of The Studio is by far the best thing on Apple TV. And I know that's a lot because Severance was all the hype like a couple months ago, and it's all anybody was talking about. And Severance is a really good show, don't get me wrong. It's really mysterious and it creates a lot of conversation. But I haven't seen anything both funny and new on TV in years. Like legitimately, not just a funny situation. I'm not talking like network TV funny, okay? This is the first thing I've seen that is funny and new. And they do it without being too political one way or another. It's just comedy. And I have missed comedy. You often hear me say, after the comedy movie, This Is the End, that ironically, Seth Rogen was in. He was part of that group. Like, that was not only the end of their group, but in so many ways, it was the death of comedy in Hollywood. It was cancel culture was coming in, and there was just everyone had to run for the hills. And all the people we loved the most started turning away from things that were funny. Look at Ben Stiller, for instance, one of the funniest people ever. We did an episode of Ben Stiller top movies. And what did he go to? Directing a drama television show, right? Like, who's in that show? Adam Scott. He's one of the funniest people ever. And he is now acting in drama shows. Everyone just went towards drama because they knew comedy was cancelable. And it is just so cool to see Apple TV, who I would imagine in my head, if you were just to pick a company and say, oh, do you think this company is probably woke or not? I'd be like, yeah, they're probably woke. And if they're doing something funny, it's probably not going to be very funny. And like I've said in the past, I was hesitant about this show because Seth Rogen's been really woke since This Is the End. And he's clearly been hesitant to do more raunchy and out there comedy, but he kills it. And this entire show is so funny and so good. And I enjoy it's different. It's really tough comparing comedy to drama. So, if we're talking about Severance, maybe Ted Lasso, and then The Studio, those might be the 3 most popular shows you could argue on Apple at this point. I think
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So I got through a season and a half of Ted Lasso, and it got woke in the 2nd season. I heard it got really woke in the 3rd season, and just the humor aspect kind of wore off for me. And it honestly turned into a drama by the start of season 2. And I know a lot of people love that show, and I'll probably get a lot of hate for this. And I love the character, but it's what so many comedies have been the last 10 years is sort of a funny situation, but nothing that's outright hilarious. And The Studio is not only a funny situation, but it's also hilarious. And
yeah.
I think all the guest stars, all the cameos from famous directors and famous actors, clearly so many of the ties, from Dave Franco to, who's the director in the Noir episode?
Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde. Just so many people throughout the show have direct connections to him from other movies and TV shows, and you can tell they brought them in, like Sal Saperstein, like Ike Barinholtz, who plays him. He's like one of my favorite characters, and they were in Neighbors and Neighbors 2 together, and you can tell they just have like amazing chemistry off of one another. And so you can tell like everyone's been really handpicked for the
Mm-hmm.
show, and they all just hit everything so near perfectly the entire time. Like, yeah, I'll nitpick later on an episode or two, but overall, for a first season debut, I can't remember many comedy first seasons that I've seen that I've enjoyed as much as this one. And it feels so fresh, and just so exciting every episode. And so, without going too crazy, if I'm reviewing the first season of this show, I'm giving it an A. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I have maybe a little annoyances here and there that we can talk about, but overall, I think this show is probably underlooked right now. I don't think people are probably talking about it enough. I think, Severance was the big Apple show. This followed in its wake, which I thought was really smart, like going from a drama and then they're featuring a comedy to kind of show their
Mm-hmm.
range. And I just think more people need to watch this show. And I hope people have enjoyed it as much as I have. I know it got renewed, I believe, for season 2, and like I could
Yep.
honestly see it going for 7 or 8 seasons if they can keep. And I know that's a lot of seasons, but that's what Entourage did, and that's like the closest I would relate this to is a show behind the scenes of Hollywood, that's both funny and entertaining at the same time. And this is way higher quality than Entourage, but I love Entourage. It's my guilty pleasure. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
initial first take review of the studio. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I was talking to some of our fans this week, and they have created a drinking game for every time you say that something is woke. So they're having a lot of fun right
Get ready
now.
to get hammered. You all better be 3
They're
shots deep already.
they're having so much fun. I agree with you that this show is very, very funny and very clever. It is very rare that we come across something that you're right. It's not just situational comedy, which has been um, very prevalent, and even just kind of like quips, like there's points of Severance that are like really funny just because it's so wonky and like everyone is so weird, and Adam Scott is actually, like you said, he's still really, really funny. He like can deliver a line very well, but this show is very clearly written and made in such a way to where people are just being funny. They are saying funny things. The situations are still hilarious. I mean, we're gonna get into episode 10 here, where they're having an absolute like wreck at CinemaCon, and they're having a great time. I think that this is it the best thing on Apple TV? You know that I'm pretty high on Severance. I really like Severance, but I would agree that out of the other things that I've seen on Apple TV, this is probably my second favorite, or it definitely competes actually with Severance right
And
now.
it's
I just
it's
had a
hard to compare comedy and
it's
drama.
apples and oranges for
Right,
sure, but
exactly. So,
this show has very high quality. Everything is very intentional. As someone who like unironically actually listens to the podcast The Town with Matt Bellany, I just thoroughly enjoyed this. Like, it's a real, so people probably know this, but that is a real podcast. You can go listen to it. It's on Spotify. It's hosted by Matt Bellany. It's a Ringer podcast. And as someone who enjoys the inner workings of Hollywood, as Matt Bellany always says, this show is just really funny. It's very self-aware, I think, and I feel like I'm learning different things as I'm going through it. And you can tell that so many people wanted to be involved in this project. Like obviously Seth Rogen has built a ton of rapport over his career and has made a lot of friends, but also you can tell that so many people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be hilarious. We just get to make fun of our everyday lives." Which like it's all in good fun too, right? It's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it scathing or crushing by any means. It's very like incisive, maybe, where it's like, yeah, like we can be self-aware about this. Let's be self-aware about this. I think we talked about that during the last episode that we reviewed.
mhm.
But this show is legitimately funny, very well made. They just take the time to, give us our winners. The cinematography always looks good. The different episodes being kind of a different genre of TV. Though my one nitpick, I think, one of the few nitpicks I have on the show is I kind of lost the trail a little bit in terms of if every episode was supposed to be something different. I don't know if I fully kept up with that after the noir episode. Maybe the episode after the I think I lost it around the doctor episode, basically, where I wasn't entirely sure what genre they were going for, if they were
Okay.
going for one. I think I'm with you. Comedy is not something that I'm necessarily always super high on. This
Right.
show
Yeah.
made me laugh out loud a lot. And so I'm giving it an 8.5 just because I'm just not as tuned towards comedy, I think. But this show just made me laugh a lot, and that's all I could have wanted for it.
Let the record show that Kenny hates laughter.
I hate fun. It's true. It is interesting though, because we've kind of been trained also in like when it comes to like recent awards bait, which this show is going to win awards. It is going to win awards. I can guarantee that. Um, we are so used to everything winning awards being depressing and sad and melodramatic and heavy, and it has to be heavy and people have to cry in order for it to be worthwhile. A lot of the movies that I saw coming out of Cannes, none of them are light, none of them are there for a good time necessarily. People just think that, oh my gosh, in order for something to have weight, they honestly fall back on sadness because sadness, ennui. They just tend to fall back on these things because they are very heavy emotions and they're kind of easy to play into. This show is saying, no, we can make something quality and still be funny, and that's something that Seth Rogen has always been good at.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was all very, very well said. So it's 10 episodes, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It's kind of the Apple way, but most comedy pilot seasons are 6 episodes, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like Eastbound and Down on HBO or The Office on NBC or anything like that, like it's typically 6 episodes. So pretty cool that they like came in, greenlit this for 10 episodes, and I would say they hit on almost every single episode. I think my favorite, if I were to pick like my favorite episodes, I think episode 2, the oneer, where the whole thing's done in one shot and it's all about doing everything in one shot. I think that's amazing. I think the noir
Mm-hmm.
episode they do, uh the missing wheel episode 4 with Olivia Wilde, that one's amazing. I'm like a huge noir fan, and I love seeing shows and anything just spoof noir stuff. So I love that. And then I think casting was hilarious when they're trying, to
Yes.
demographically, racially include everybody in the Kool-Aid movie. I think that's hilarious. I think, and I still thought this was funny, but I think for some reason the pediatric oncologist and the Golden Globes and
Yeah.
CinemaCon, they all had kind of like similar like presentation vibes going on a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, which I was like, which is kind of interesting. But I still really liked all of them. So yeah, I thought it was great. The only episode I really was not a huge fan of was episode 5, The War. And that was
Mm-hmm.
when Sal Saperstein and Quinn Hackett are going at it. And Quinn is basically trying to get Sal fired for I don't know, being insensitive or something like that. I can't remember. And they're kind of playing this back and forth the entire time. I didn't really love the dynamic in that episode, mainly because I think Quinn's the worst character, and she was not funny. She came off as like kind of vindictive and mean and maniacal, like which could have been, and I don't know if it was the way it was written, acted, whatever, but like it didn't come across funny. Like it is funny seeing
Interesting.
a Jim and Dwight like go at each other, or a Toby and a Michael go at each other. And honestly, in that episode, you really felt like, at least I felt like serious sympathy for Sal during the episode, where I'm like, this guy like didn't really do anything wrong, and this chick is like trying to cancel him just so she can like get his job. And I just like,
Absolutely.
it felt
Yeah,
weird.
I
It just felt weird to me. Like the whole episode like just felt strange to me.
I I felt zero sympathy for Sal. I never feel any sympathy for Sal. I think that he's such like a loser in every single way, and he's just like trying. They all have this weird sense of vibrato. I actually really liked that episode because it's really interesting, like them going around, and I think it was an episode where they're showing us a lot of like, hey, here's like the stuff around a studio, and like these different sets and all these different things, and the reasons why she's trying to like get him fired is so that she can greenlight her movie. Like she wants to be able to take his place, and so it's just kind of showing that like ambition in it's corporate ambition in Hollywood. I don't think that it's anything unique to Hollywood. So I agree that there's an aspect where it might be like a weak episode, but like watching these executives just trying to like crawl and scrounge over each other in order to get their movie made so they can have like a sense of fame about them is very unique. The episode that
I
just didn't
think
work as
before
oh,
you
go
go
ahead.
on to the episode you didn't like, I'll give one
Yeah.
quick rebuttal and let's go to that. I'll say the only thing about, first off, I like Sal, and I think like Sal they could have wrote the character differently, and it could have been way worse. But I like that he wanted Matt Remick's job. He doesn't get it, and he basically like has his back immediately, and he's like they're best friends, and he does like help him consistently and take heat for him consistently throughout the entire season. And so like I do think he's like I don't know. Like I don't think he does anything wrong. He's a loudmouth, but like he's I don't know. There's the reason that episode didn't work for me was just the extremity of you felt like by episode 5 you had a gang of people that
Mhm.
were core characters and to see and that had chemistry and would kind of work off each other playfully for 5 episodes.
Mhm.
It'd be kind of like if you're watching The Office or Parks and Rec or Seinfeld and these core characters are together, that are main characters, and one of them just like goes from like okay taking like a dig here or there like humorously to like, oh, I'm literally gonna get you fired and ruin your life. Like,
Yeah.
and it
And then
was
go back the next episode to just being fine.
exactly that's what bothered me is it felt like the weight of where they were at was like severe. And it
Yeah.
just took away from the comedy element where like they could have not had her motivations be like that. And like honestly, like go rewatch that episode. Like that chick is just like you said, she's very ambitious, but like she's just like a snake like the entire time and pretty ruthless, which like that to me can come off as more situational comedy where like it wasn't that funny. It was just like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, this is like, wow, I can't believe she's doing this. Like there weren't a lot of like funny jokes that went with it. It was just like
Yeah.
she had this guy on the ropes, and it was one of the only episodes where like I didn't feel like the humor really came through the dialogue. Okay, so
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
come and tell me the episode you had a problem with.
So I think the episode that I had the biggest problem with, and this isn't necessarily a dig against the episode, it's just not the sort of comedy I like, is the episode with the doctors, where it was just like both very funny to be like, oh, the studio executive is arguing that his job is as important as like a pediatric oncologist or these like doctors who are curing cancer. It's very funny, and it's but at the same time just like the cringe factor there, and they did it very very well, good for them, but I'm just not as into cringe. I don't really know if there's too much else to say other than that,
I can
but it
comment
is
on
also
that episode a little bit
yeah.
and say that episode was weird for me. It gave me red flags right away because it was like the diarrhea trailer that they were doing and or teaser or whatever, and I was like, I don't really like quote unquote toilet humor like that, and so I was immediately like, oh gosh, I don't think it's gonna be funny. But then as they brought it in and contrasted it with the pediatric like ball and like he's like face to face telling people his job is just as important as saving lives and then taking a phone call and being like, yes, oh, it's so funny, like run it, show the poop, and it's like it's kind of like that. It ended up working for me, but at first I had red flags. But
Yeah.
I also thought that episode was really good because, and this is something that um a lot of comedy has struggled with over the last 10 years. Like as a comedic genius, I can tell you where comedy has gone wrong. Okay. Over the last 10 years, there have been problems. Somebody says something Let's say I were to say something slightly racist, which I never would. But imagine me saying that now. Okay, enter quote here. The response in that's supposed to be comedic in most shows and movies over the last 10 years has been the person who's hearing this to then tell that person that's racist, that's inappropriate. And we're supposed to almost find that funny that they're calling the person who said something that didn't intentionally mean something was racist to be racist. And it's not funny. It's just like kind of virtue signaling. And like, they're like, oh, I'm funny because I called you out for that. That's not funny. What they did right.
It's just calling a pot a pot, right? It's just like, it's not necessarily that funny to be like, this is what this is. It's like, yeah, we know. Like,
right.
And the audience caught that.
Right. And I prefer comedy in sort of the, on stage when they do the yes and it's like you can't say no and you're supposed to just keep rolling with things, right? And that's what the pediatric oncologist episode, the way they wrote those characters did so well is, okay, Matt Remick could have looked like just a complete idiot the entire episode for trying to argue that movies are as important as saving lives. You know what they did right from the comedic point of view there is they made all the doctors complete narcissists. Okay. Yeah. And because they made them narcissists, it made us empathetic and it made us almost like want to back Matt's opinion. Being like, yeah, you know what? Screw these doctors. Like they think they're so self-important and they talk down to everybody. And they did such a good job of that. Where like so many shows nowadays would have wrote the doctor characters as like not funny with no pushback, like just like nice people that are flat. And they didn't. And so just because we got onto that episode,
I'm trying to like, as I'm going through the show, I can't actually think of, with the exception of maybe Martin Scorsese, I don't think that there's a single like good person, if you will, in the entire show. Everyone is like, they're all very like ambitious or full of themselves, like and I think that that's kind of on purpose. Is, I think Seth Rogen is trying to set every character up to be like, hey, we want you to feel comfortable laughing at all of these guys, and we're making it very abundantly clear for everybody that these are not good people and it's okay to laugh at them. Like a lot of the show is about being laughed at. The doctors in that episode are the same way, where it's like they're not wrong. What they do is clearly more important. However, they're just being total jerks about it.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean,
is it?
I would argue. Yeah. Yes, it is. I'll take a hard stance on that. If society crumbles, we'll need doctors. We may not necessarily need a studio executive.
We need the poop trailer.
We need the dude. What's that? Josh Hutcherson. We need the Josh Hutcherson poop trailer.
Yeah, that's right.
Sam, let's go to our thoughts on the final episode really quick.
Okay, so studio finale review. I've got a whirlwind. Can I hit you with this?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a two-parter. Episode 9, episode 10. CinemaCon, episode 9. The presentation, episode 10. These episodes to me were two of the weaker episodes. And I don't know if weak is the right way to put it, but me personally, it is really hit or miss for me when I see people doing drugs and getting high or being wasted in TV or film, because sometimes it's hilarious and sometimes it isn't. And here's what I'll compare it to. I wasn't a huge drinker or drug doer in college. Okay, Kenny, so maybe you can speak more on that than I can. But when I would be at a party or something when I would be at a party or something like that, and it's like, if you're not drinking and everyone else is drunk, or you're not high and everyone else is high, and they all find something hilarious and you're watching and it's kind of stupid, it's hard to enjoy the situation or find it as funny as they are. And that's how I feel when I'm watching people play inebriated people on TV. And this is a situation where, so both episodes, Matt Remick basically doesn't mean to, but he drugs everyone with shrooms for his old school Hollywood buffet party. And that's honestly the funniest phrase in the 2 episodes. And I love that they keep repeating it. But Dave Franco guest stars, and Zoe Kravitz's best guest starring, and Dave Franco, my doppelganger. And he plays Dave Franco. He's kind of loud. He doesn't know how to act. He like shouts everything that he says like this all the time. That's how Dave Franco is. I love Dave Franco. I love James Franco.
Like you.
Yeah, kind of like me. Exactly. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. And so like I found the situation funny, but it's hard when people are just like pretending to be high, spewing lines that we're supposed to think are funny because they're so ridiculous, right? Like I found, like, no offense, like when Zoe Kravitz is like high on shrooms in the room, like I'm not saying the situation wasn't funny, but again, it's someone being like, oh, I don't want to jump on the ground, it's so far away, and they're like, oh look, it's not that far away, and she's like, oh no, it's like, geez, it's like, I don't know, I just wasn't in love with it. Now the situation it created for the final piece of the finale, where they all have to actually give the presentation and they're all like barely pulling it together and going out on stage and delivering that's funny. That works for me as a pretty good finale to the season. But I just thought 2 full episodes of people just being high the entire time, like, I don't know, like that's 20% of your season right there on one joke. And so I thought episode 10 was better than episode 9. I thought 9 was an okay setup, and 10 was better. And I thought Dave Franco was actually really funny in episode 10. I thought he actually like kind of stole the show, every line he had. The recap they did from episode 9 to 10 with Dave Franco like narrating it, like at first I was like, this is kind of cringy, but then it was also kind of unique and funny. So
it's kind of Entourage in that way, like not necessarily in the, hey, like let's recap the last episode. I don't really think Entourage does that, but just like his character is very Entourage.
Yes, very Entourage. So, you know, if I'm rating the finale, I'll probably give it like a B. Like it was still high quality, but it was, you know, just above, like I said, I didn't like the war episode, and then other than that, I'm probably putting them like towards the bottom. And I also think they could have done a little bit more with the Vegas setting. They did a lot with it. So like I don't want to criticize them too much for that. But that's where I'll put it. I'll give the finale a B.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. The last 2 episodes are very much Seth Rogen trying to play the hits. It kind of feels like he's trying to capture Pineapple Express in a bottle again and kind of re-release it just with Dave instead of James. I think I agree with you that for the most part it doesn't really land. I would say that I think the intent is that a lot of it is supposed to pay off in the end, right? Where both Dave Franco and Zoe Kravitz both get out on stage, and everyone is so concerned about Zoe Kravitz the whole time. They're like, they're worried about the owner, the Breaking Bad. I just keep
Bryan Cranston, Griffin
Brian,
Mill.
Like, yeah, they're super worried about Bryan Cranston's character, and they're really they're like, oh my gosh, like Zoe Kravitz is gonna ruin this whole thing for us. And like both Dave Franco and Zoe Kravitz go out there and absolutely crush it, which is kind of like a funny bit of like, wait, are all the Hollywood actors just like, it's just like a funny thing to be like, oh yeah, they're all out there like on crack, going out.
These are the people we look up to.
And they're absolutely just crushing it. And the person who gives the worst speech, ironically, is the person who was sober the entire time. Like she was having to like vamp without
Patty.
without the teleprompter, and she just like totally bombs.
I will say,
so I think that
because you mentioned him, and I don't know if you're gonna get back to him, but Griffin Mill, played by Bryan Cranston, I think he does crush it during this episode. I think he basically, they do the Weekend at Bernie's thing with him, and I think he just like does the physical comedy really well in this episode. And he plays like, I normally don't find that too funny, but I think he just kind of like played a really inebriated old guy pretty funnily, like watching him swing across stage, like just like no muscles activated, was very funny. Okay, continue.
I did also kind of find it funny that like Matt Remick likes to pretend like he was like a part of old Hollywood, and he's like, "Oh, back in the day before your generation ruled and all these things, is how all the parties were." But like when he goes to buy the shrooms, he clearly has no idea what he's buying because he thinks that he's buying like a small amount in order to microdose, and ends up just getting everyone ridiculously high. I did find that funny to be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, these
and
people like to pretend like they're so cool and with it."
Kenny knows those ratios really well with like how much of the
Yeah.
mushrooms to take to get in a sweet spot. So
Yeah, I was also glad that they actually explained how much that was because I thought the whole joke was gonna be, oh, he bought too little, and everyone's super annoyed that they didn't get high enough. But then when it flipped, I was like, oh, so it's a lot. So that, I learned something new today.
sure you
Um,
did.
yeah, sure I did. Hi, mom. Thanks for listening. So I did find that funny that these studio executives love to pretend like they're with it, like the what's her like the marketing lead in this show who's always just like she has some like stupid TikTok thing like in
Catherine
this
Hahn.
episode. Yeah, Catherine
Yeah.
Hahn has this like a beret in her hair that just says slay in it. It's just like, oh my gosh, these people are just like these people are so lame, but they want to be like so cool and with it and like kind of like capture their youth and like the enchantment that they had in like what they would consider like the golden age of Hollywood. But I'm with you. I don't actually think that it wasn't as well executed as the other episodes. It's confusing that it was like as long. I mean, obviously, I loved the Matt Bellany cameo. I thought that was really funny where they're trying to like he is like kind of the overlord of Hollywood, and everyone's just always trying to like they both admire him at this like there's several
And
times
tiptoe
there's also
around him.
yeah, and also tiptoe around him because they know that he can like ruin everything, which is a very funny way to think of like some podcasters just kind of running Hollywood is kind of like this mob boss that you just have to be on the good side of, but also trying to stay out of the way of the entire time.
Right. So like and Kenny says that like as just a warning to everyone out there. Do not cross us or we can ruin your careers with the influence of our podcast.
Yeah. We and all 20 of our subscribers on YouTube will come and find you
20,000.
and
20,000.
yeah, 20K. Misspoke,
Yeah.
20K. Yeah, of course. Um yeah, so Sam, favorite episode. Did you say it was the Noir episode?
Um it's it's probably the oneer for me. And then the missing reel, which is the noir episode, and then it's probably a tie between and then probably casting, um and then yeah, there's a few others, but yeah.
Yeah. My I think that my favorite was probably casting. I found that very funny and just felt honestly like a very real situation where these executives are not seeing the forest for the trees. Like they're trying to focus on something that there's nothing necessarily blatantly wrong with what they're doing, but they're missing the whole point while they're trying to go about and like not get canceled. That's like the problem. They don't really care about diversity. They just want to make sure that they save their own skin so they can keep their jobs, which I find to be very funny and feels pretty real.
Yeah,
Um,
that episode is it's the
yeah,
shortest one, I think, but you're right. It's that episode is so funny and it really
yeah,
it's funny because everything that gets posted nowadays, I don't care if it's a video game, a movie trailer, a TV teaser, whatever, everyone on the internet is such an a-hole and is so full of hate and criticism that whatever gets posted, they just have to tear down and nitpick to death. And to the point
right,
where the people who put it out, it's like you can't almost put out anything because it's like everyone wants your head on a platter. You get fired. They're
right,
like, "Oh, sorry, everyone. We're gonna be using real dwarves that are made by CGI specialists that are full-sized people, and we're not going to offend anyone here, and we're going to change everything you saw in the
yeah,
trailer to make you happy. And really, you're all
right.
just the test subjects for this."
Yeah, yeah. It's that episode's funny how it incorporates and yeah, it's pretty funny. And I think the runner up for me is the Golden Globes episode, which is very funny because the whole time everyone's like, "Oh, it's the Golden Globes, like we don't care." And the reality is most people don't actually care about the Golden Globes. It's fun to watch to some extent because all these people are going around just kind of being ridiculous. It is a party that has a lot of booze at it. If you ever watch it on TV, a lot of the people on stage have had a little bit too much to drink. Um, can be an entertaining watch, I suppose. But I thought that was like really funny. And Zoe Kravitz's character, the introduction of her character is really funny in that episode. And just again, the whole show is Matt wants to make a good movie. He wants to be able to make good movies, but he also wants to feel like this titan in the industry. And even though he's reached the peak, right? He is a studio executive. He is all these people's bosses, but he can't win at awards. There's no Oscar or Golden Globe for him. He wants to be able to contribute something to the movie in the winner, and he's just gonna end up messing it up. All the things that he wants, he's not able to do, even though he's like a very wealthy, very like traditionally successful person.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great episode. I think Zoe
Yeah,
Kravitz is really funny in that
yeah,
episode. I love that she's totally two-faced and super
totally.
egotistical but hiding it, and just like
Yeah,
um and it's great seeing actresses play into that. And like I said, that's what hasn't been happening in Hollywood over the last 10 years. People have been afraid to make fun of themselves. I haven't liked Olivia Wilde. I don't think she's funny. I don't think she's a great director. She really annoyed me when she made Booksmart, which was just a super bad ripoff. And then she ripped everybody. It only made like a few $1 million, and she ripped everyone. They said everyone's sexist for not supporting her as a female director, and that's why people intentionally didn't see it, because if people saw it, they would have known how good and funny it was. I saw it. It wasn't very funny. It was like just a super, super woke, not funny version of Superbad. But you know what? I can set my life aside and my judgment aside on a per film or TV basis and say, you know what? I loved Olivia Wilde in this show. I thought she was
hmm
really did a great job of making fun of herself, and she did great. And Zoe Kravitz does
yeah,
that, and I think everybody in the show does that. So,
yeah.
what would you give the finale though, out of 10,
Well,
or a letter grade?
it 7,
Okay,
7 out of 10. I
okay,
think it. The I actually liked episode 9 more than I liked episode 10.
okay.
Um, but again, they're still good. I
Yeah,
just
no,
think
they're
that
still
once
good.
again, the bar had been set by the previous episodes of being so good, and it is something that I feel like. I mean, we've only potted about 2 Apple TV shows this year, and both shows we kind of were like felt like they petered out a little bit at the end, and maybe that's just because our expectation had been set high earlier in the season. But so I'm thinking that that's gonna. I'm wondering if Apple is kind of working on picking some of that up. The the one final thought on the overall season is it does not overstay its welcome. It's been a very long time since I've seen a show release that is truly like 20 to 30 minutes long. It's very like 10 episodes, a grand total of what, maybe 300, 400 minutes. Nothing crazy, a few hours, very fun. Like a top 5 hour show.
I also think anyone
And
could watch this show. I think like, well, pretty much anyone. I'd say like young adult to old people could
yeah.
watch, and I mean that in no offensive way. You have made it many years, old people, but I think anyone could enjoy this. So with that being said, real quickly, let's go ahead and just like maybe rank our characters, just like
Yeah.
tier our characters a little bit just for kicks. So I'll shoot them at you, Kenny. Matt Remick, Seth Rogen, what are you gonna give him?
Are we doing it by tiers?
Yeah, you do tiers.
A tier, for sure.
I agree. A tier for Matt Remick. Patty Lay, played by Catherine O'Hara, who has made a big revitalization in her career since her Home Alone days.
C tier, she passes for me. She's not necessarily a standout.
Okay, I would agree with that. C tier as well. Sal Saberstein, for me, A tier. A tier for me for Sal Saberstein.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with A tier as well. Very funny, a good foil for Matt.
Yes. Maya Mason, played by the hilarious Catherine Hahn.
She's S tier. I think that she's so funny in this.
S tier. Okay.
Yeah, she and that's probably a little bit of a hot take, but I find her to be very funny and just like her ridiculous like TikTok vibes, and I don't know. I just think that she's really funny in this show. It works for me.
I'll give her S tier as well. And here's the reason I will give, I'll copy you, give her S tier. And here's the reason why is she is in the episodes less than all the other people we're probably talking about, but she
Hmm.
really does the most with her moments. I think she always pops on screen. All of her lines are delivered because she's on screen less. Her lines can be a little bit more outrageous, right? When she tries to like
Hmm.
make out with Matt in the final episode, like so like
Pretty funny.
twice, so funny. And always she always just kind of catches you by surprise a little bit. She kind of reminds me of like a Creed from The Office in that way. It's like, oh, you don't see him a lot, but
Totally.
when he steps in, he's like S tier. He's so funny. So great
Definitely.
call. And then let's do two more. Quinn Hackett.
She the young one?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's C tier. I'm with you where I don't think her character was very strong. No one in this show bombs. You might disagree, but I think that she passes, and I think that she was intended to be more of a tertiary character. I liked her in the war. I found her actually pretty funny in that episode, but not like stand out.
Yeah, I'll give Quinn D tier, borderline F tier. I don't find Quinn funny at all. I think the haircut she gets before they go to Vegas for episodes 9 and 10 should be made illegal. It is that ugly. And when I go out into the world and I see people with this haircut, it makes me want to vomit. And so I wonder what was going on there. I thought that was not good. Like they took the least funny character and just decided, you know what we can do is make her unattractive,
I mean,
even more
Catherine Hahn's
unattractive.
hairdo is not much better. And if we're gonna talk about bad hair, we have to harken back to the funny bit of Seth Rogen dyeing his hair the wrong color,
That was
which
funny,
it did look legitimately psycho. It was
but not even close to
very
as bad
funny.
as that haircut that Quinn had. So I just don't feel like Quinn brings a whole lot. Honestly, I don't want to be that guy, but I could legitimately see them replacing her. Season two and bringing in someone funnier. Like I think if they legitimately tested this, she would by far be the least favorable character. And it's early in the show. Who
Yeah.
knows how long it's going to run for? But there are other people out there, other young people out there who I think could fill that role in a more funny way.
Agreed.
And last one, let's go with Griffin Mill, played by Bryan Cranston. He's only in, three,
Yeah.
4 episodes, sometimes sparingly, sometimes a lot. Where would you rank Griffin Mill?
He's S tier. I mean, I love Bryan Cranston, and so I do have a little bit of a bias that I'm bringing into this, but also he's in the same way of Catherine Hahn. He's not in it very often, but when he is the star of the show. That last episode in particular, all of the physical comedy that he's doing, whether he's dancing in a fountain or literally like being like a little limp rag doll in the suspender or in the like suspended cables in the end of the episode. Very funny. I also just like that he is like his concern for movies is very funny because at the beginning of the season he's not really concerned. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna make a Kool-Aid movie because it's gonna make a lot of money," and then at the end he's like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna sell to Amazon and we're gonna like lose all of our creative freedom and lose our jobs." Blah 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 blah. So I thought he was quite funny. Best year.
Okay, I would give Griffin Mill B tier for me, and I
Oh,
I also
interesting.
like Bryan Cranston. He's typically really good in everything he's in, but yeah, he's solid B for me. Where he's not I feel like involved enough where I like fall in love with the character, and the physical humor is funny at the end, but I also feel like his character's like zany and outrageous and sometimes just like doesn't completely hit for me, and I just yeah, I don't know if I can, but I think B tier solid. He does a really good job of like being the glue for Continental Studios when he needs to step
Hmm.
in and just be sort of a inappropriate overhead. Like he'll say things that are
Right.
inappropriate, but because he is in top charge, like no one can say anything to him. So
Right. Right. I've also
um
never seen him in a role like this. So I thought that was fun that he was kind of like, at least for me, seeing him like a new aspect of him was really funny.
yeah, he was funny. I watched Malcolm in the Middle growing up. He was really funny in that. He has a couple
Mm,
cameos. in Seinfeld, and he's really funny in Seinfeld. So like I always knew like he has that range to him, which is cool.
Yeah,
But
I missed Malcolm in the Middle, so maybe I need to go back and do some
it's
watching there.
actually a pretty funny show. It's kind of nuts, but it's funny. Okay, well that's it. So what are we giving this? I guess between you and me, we're giving the first season an 8.75 out of 10.
Yeah, super strong.
And it's really great, and we highly recommend it. So please let us know what you all thought about the first season of the studio. Remember to like, sub, follow, join our Discord, subscribe to us on Patreon so you can keep supporting, keep the lights on,
Follow us on
and
Twitter and TikTok.
follow us on Twitter and TikTok. Those accounts are blowing up. Between that account, between our YouTube account and my personal TikTok account, we're around 25,000 followers at this point. So we are headed in the right direction. Isn't that right, Kenny?
That's right. Onward and upward.
Onward and upward. All right. Well, everyone, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.